Hello YouTube members and viewers. This is a part 2 to my video I posted about the Tascam Porta 2 Ministudio. I was having issues with my tape transport. The play function would not engage and the automatic shutoff would engage. Therefore I wouldn't be able to play any tapes or anything. This is a service manual I have. It's not the one that it's not for the original. It's not for the Porta Studio that I own, but it works and I've got good guidelines and it's been helping me out. A little idea of when these were manufactured. So, anyways, I've checking that out for a while, trying to figure this thing out. But I had to take apart the head plate. Matter of fact, I took apart the whole thing because I needed to figure out what was going on. And I just want to say thanks to Mr. Brian, YouTube member, goes by the name of Glasstronic. Definitely a big help. And this is going to be a shocker because this is something that was never addressed as of yet as to what could have possibly been the problem. So let me get right to it. The problem that I was having, the reason why my tape transport was continuously doing the automatic shutoff was because I had a broken head base. The boss, hey, I learned that term from Mr. Glasstronic, by the way, by Brian. Thank you very much for all your help and support. I'm very grateful for that. And here's what I promised you that I would reveal my problem to everybody, and this is the problem. I learned that term from you, the boss, the main boss, the actual plastic piece that the screw mounts to the head plate broke off. There was a little area that basically this just came to a complete little circle. And then there was just a little plastic piece that was pretty flush with this. And as you see the shape of this is the shape of the actual head base spring. Here's the spring. What happened was this spring popped out on top of this area that was supposed to lock it in place. If you noticed on the back side, the spring fits perfectly in this little groove here, and it has a little bit of a play right here. I don't know if I could focus in on that, but there's a little gap that the head base spring was able to, it was a spacer. And what happened was, since that piece broke on me, the spring popped out on top of it. So that's how the spring fits in there, right? And so if you notice, the spring is pretty much surpassed where you can imagine the rest of that plastic piece existing. Let me see if I can give a better demonstration. So like it was pretty flush like that, so to speak, right? And the spring was popping past it. And what happened was, when the head plate was moving up, there was all kinds of play in this spring. And so essentially the head plate wouldn't slide all the way up to engage the to allow for the idle play arm to surpass this little lip right here. So the tire was never touching the take-up reel. And once I figured that out and Jimmy rigged something, I was able to make it work. And it actually is the problem. So I Jimmy rigged some like wire when this piece was all still intact, because I cut this piece and I made a little modification that actually improved it. And I'm going to get it working. So I'm pretty stoked. But the sad news is there's no replacing these things. You know, you can go buy them on eBay or whatever, spend the money if you want. I'm choosing not to. but I modified a piece that's going to work perfect to lock that spring back into place. So now the head plate moves all the way up exactly where it's supposed to go. And so I had this little like piece of wire that I jimmy rigged, and I had it on there literally like that to test it to see if that was the thing that was happening with it. And it sure was, because it was locking the spring where it needed to be with enough tension to where it actually moved the head plate right where it needed to go in order for the idle play arm to engage with the take-up reel, and then it slid all the way up where it needed to go. So that was the problem. When the spring pops out of there, probably from temperature and age and who knows what, because it was a hairline break. So it wasn't like missing plastic, it was just a hairline crack, but it was enough to let the spring pop up through on top, and it was resting somewhere like right here. And so the plate wouldn't go as far as it needed to go. And you know what I mean, when the pinch roller would only reach so far towards the capstan. So that was my problem. And I got creative, and I modified my own little piece that's going to improve this area, so it's going to lock the spring in there how it's supposed to. And I'm going to show you guys in another segment the results. But before I took it completely apart and made my modification, as I mentioned before, I had this little wire in there to test it, because it was holding the plastic intact, so the hairline fracture there wasn't opening up from the tension and pressure of the spring, because once it did, the spring would pop out past it. So I tested it like that with everything back together, and my play worked. So I thought about it, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to make a modification to improve it. And I did. And I'll explain what's going on here in the next little segment, because I only got like 10-minute videos or worth of time that YouTube will allow me to take. But with creativity and some willingness, I turned a part of one thing into a washer with an arm. Yeah, and it's gonna lock that. It's gonna lock the spring right into place where it needs to go. But anyways, I'll show you guys how I did that, how I made it. I fabricated it from a piece of bridge rectifier, one of the actual leads, or the connection. This was a connection from a bridge rectifier. It went to this. Okay. I had 4 chances to get this right, and I did, and I'm going to show everybody how I did it. But it was kind of weird, and it was kind of cool. I'm stoked. I'm going to get this thing up and running. But anyhow, so those of you with automatic shut-off problems with your Porta 2 Ministudio, check the head plate and check for a crack. Unfortunately, you're going to have to remove the head and play heads. Remove the play head and erase heads, but maybe somebody, if you don't have the paperwork or knowledge on how to readjust everything, then you could probably talk to another member that does and work out a deal. It's probably worth saving, because the bottom line is no one's showing tutorials or restoration videos on these type of models. Tascam, I also have a Tascam 246 4-track recorder that I'm going to also show tutorials on, so everybody can get familiar with that. So stay tuned for the next video, and I hope that was helpful. Check that out. Peace.